Building the version of you that doesn't quit. Identity architecture for lasting change. You've made it to the final episode of this series, and I want to start with a question. How many times have you changed, genuinely changed, and then slowly drifted back? You built momentum, you felt different, you were different, and then life happened. Stress came, old triggers fired, and without fully realizing it, you found yourself back in the same patterns, wondering if real change is even possible for someone like you. It is, but not the way most people try to do it. This final episode is about building a version of yourself that is structurally resistant to self-sabotage. Not through willpower, through identity architecture. Let's finish this. Do not forget to subscribe to our channel to motivate us. Part 1. Why most change doesn't last. The reason most behavioral change doesn't stick is because it targets behavior without changing identity. People try to act their way into a new life while still holding an old self-concept. They use discipline to force new behaviors on top of an unchanged identity. And discipline, as powerful as it is, has a ceiling. It runs out, especially under stress, fatigue, or emotional activation. Neuroscientist Dr. Joe Dispenza puts it this way: if you think the same thoughts, make the same choices, and feel the same emotions every day, you are chemically and neurologically creating the same version of yourself. The body becomes the mind. The habit becomes the identity. Lasting change requires going beneath behavior to the level of self-concept. Not, what do I do, but, who am I? Not, how do I act, but, what do I believe about myself at the deepest level? Because when behavior is anchored to identity, it no longer requires willpower. It requires recognition. This is who I am, so this is what I do. Part 2. The 3 levels of identity change. There are 3 levels at which identity operates, and lasting change must work across all 3. Level 1. Belief. What you believe about yourself, your capability, and what's possible for you. This is the narrative layer we worked on in episode 3. Beliefs are the operating system. Everything else runs on top of them. Level 2. Behavior. What you consistently do, especially under pressure. Behavior is not just the expression of identity. It is also the construction of it. Every repeated action sends a signal to the brain about who you are. Every time you act from the new identity, you reinforce it neurologically. Level 3. Environment. The most underestimated level. Your brain is constantly shaped by context. The people around you, the spaces you inhabit, the content you consume, these are not neutral. They are either confirming the old identity or scaffolding the new one. Most people try to change who they are while keeping everything around them the same. That is fighting against the current. Lasting identity change requires deliberate attention to all 3 levels simultaneously. Part 3. Identity architecture, the daily structure. Here is the practical framework. The daily architecture of someone actively building an identity that doesn't self-sabotage. Pillar 1. The morning narrative. Before your day begins, before you check the phone, before the world comes in, spend 5 minutes with your new story. Not a vague affirmation, a specific, evidence-based statement of who you are becoming and why it's true. Read it, tweak it, feel it. You are priming the brain's predictive system for the day's experience. Pillar 2. The identity action. Identify one action per day that the new version of you takes, and the old version avoids. 1 email sent, 1 boundary held, 1 moment of visibility embraced, 1 rest taken without guilt. Small, targeted, identity-consistent actions that build neural evidence daily. The cumulative effect of 365 identity actions in a year is not incremental change. It is transformation. Pillar 3. The stress protocol. Decide in advance, before the trigger comes, how the new version of you responds under pressure. Because self-sabotage activates fastest at stress peaks. If you have no protocol, your oldest pattern takes over by default. Your protocol can be simple: pause, breathe, name the pattern, choose the response. But it must be rehearsed when you're calm, so it's accessible when you're not. Pillar 4. The evidence journal. Every evening, 3 pieces of evidence that the new identity is real. Not aspirational evidence, actual evidence from the day, where you showed up differently, Where you caught the sabotage. Where you chose the growth response over the protection response. Over time, this journal becomes the most powerful document you own. It is the neurological case file for the person you are becoming. Part 4. The compound effect of identity. Here is the concept I want to leave you with. Identity compounds, not linearly, not on a schedule you can predict, but exponentially, in ways that become undeniable over time. Every day you act from the new identity, the neural pathway for that identity gets stronger. Every day you catch the sabotage pattern instead of following it, the old pathway gets weaker. The gap between old and new closes, slowly at first, then suddenly. This is what people mean when they talk about a breakthrough. It rarely happens in a single dramatic moment. It accumulates, beneath the surface, invisibly, until one day you realize you are simply not the person you used to be. You respond differently. You think differently. The old triggers have lost their charge. That is not luck. That is deliberate neurological construction. That is identity architecture working exactly as designed. The version of you that doesn't self-sabotage is not a fantasy. It is not reserved for uniquely gifted or uniquely fortunate people. It is the inevitable result of consistent, identity-level work applied over time. You are building that person right now. With every episode you watched, every insight you sat with, every moment you chose awareness over automaticity. We've covered a lot of ground in this series. We started with the neuroscience of self-sabotage, why the brain protects patterns over progress. We went into the fear of thriving, the quiet terror of becoming unfamiliar to yourself. We explored the stories that keep you small, and how to rewrite them at the level where it actually matters. And today, we built the architecture, the daily structure that makes the new identity real. This is the work of the neurohuman. Not hacking productivity, not optimizing performance metrics, but understanding the system underneath, the brain, the nervous system, the narrative, and choosing, with full awareness, who you are becoming. That is the most important project of your life. If this series added something to your thinking, share it. Leave a comment telling me which episode hit the hardest. And subscribe, because we go this deep every single week. The next version of you is not waiting to be discovered. It's waiting to be built. Let's keep building. See you in the next series.